To everyone, especially production management or sponsor that are looking at this video. My name is Sarah, and in this video we'll explain you exactly what is the film project about, how the idea came out, and what's the purpose of the entire production behind the realization of STRIKEMATE Table 13. The story is a detective drama existential sort of novel where I created 13 characters of various different backgrounds that have a specific role in the society. They are already set, they have their own job, but something happened in just one day. Depending on the action of one of the characters, the other will completely fall apart. I mean, their lives will be completely affected, and so they will find each other in a sort of basement, in a dark room, where they have to confess each other their inner secret, and one of them will be the ultimate criminal who disconnected every one of them. And at the same time, it will be a sort of revelation, because the main character is a Google analyst, a Google manager analyst, who is taking on the leads of the social Facebook and knows exactly the algorithm of all the users in the city of Berlin, but not only Berlin. It's just that the location is symbolic, but it can be any kind of metropolitan city out there. Of course, it can be New York, it can be reversed to Paris, it can be also represented, for example, in London. So there are a lot of references about the main character being a sort of god, specifically because he's a Google analyst, and Google is the one that is maneuvering and is managing all the others users' idea, and is taking also a personal identification of the other people. So it's a sort of, we can say, main detector of others people's decision. In STRIKEMATE, the most important thing is that all these characters that the main one will find in the dark rooms and basements are projection of themselves. So basically we have Fred Egelman, which is the little child, which is a projection of him when he was a child. We have like the wife of the neighbours, which is nothing by Denise, the girl with whom Elijah will project an app that is called STRIKEMATE. STRIKEMATE is an app invented in order to make the people collect each other in order to form a business on their own that is in a way worthy to their personal realizations, to their personal field and sector. So STRIKEMATE is selecting people that are working in the same area, the same field, that could be useful to the other person to create a sort of collaboration. In fact, the main message of the movie is to create more possibility for small businesses, and it's in a way a bit we can say provoking in terms of multinational exploitism, multinational suprematism. That is why it's promoting the independence of little business. But at the same time, there is a sort of existential consideration at the end of the movie that you cannot save everything, that your life destinies as its own circles in a sort of Buddhistic acceptance, so you cannot always save the life of everyone. There is always a balance that you have to find with yourself. And of course, the style is a bit Cluedo type, is a sort of escape room where everybody, they have to find a way to get out from this sort of prison, but at the same time it's not existent. And at the very end it could sound also a bit hilarious, because the soundtrack that it will be chosen will be also classical music and a reference to Clockwork Orange La Gazzelladra, which is one of the most important Rossini's composition, but not exactly in this movie. We will use the Can-Can of Offenbach just to show up what happened exactly the previous day. Why is important for me this project? I think any sort of character that is present in STRIKEMATE could be more developed. So it started like a short film, but as the promises and basis for a TV series. As I said, it has the promises to be a TV series, because any characters develop a social skills and role in society, and they should be also in a way studied and analytically presented before they will find each other in the Google company. every one of them has a different story, has a different references, and now they were getting the job. And there is also an importance in this movie that maybe cannot be transferred first, that is anti-discriminational, because the main senior analyst that is also obtaining one of the more important position in the pyramid of this agentura, we can say, is coming from Africa, with South Africa, so he wants also to underline the importance of the abilities. Instead, Elijah is younger than the senior analyst, and by the way will be chosen by the head department as the CEO of the company, because in this movie it's not important the experience of each of them in terms of years, but the ability of getting some skills and overcome their own limits. There is also a sort of Nietzsche attitude and references on the way that the God itself doesn't exist, but we are our own God. I don't want to say that I'm not religious, because I believe that there is something, other life, a sort of other life. That's why I want to transfer the possibility that it could be a question mark what really happened in that dark room. But it's also very sensitive in terms of each other people's beliefs. So it let a sort of carte blanche of interpretation. To realize this movie, I gathered up one of the person that I consider more competent in camera operation, which is Alexa Grunau. Is gonna be part of my camera assistances and the direction of photography. In the direction of photography as color, I was inspired a bit by Suspiria, especially when we found the room of the Tanzschule in Potsdam, which will be completely renovated with mirrors. The idea is also to create a sort of room of illusion where the characters will enter, they will completely not find a way to get out from there, so the sense should be claustrophobic, and a bit inspired by Dario Argento's movie. Main director of photography is Luciano Tovoli, which also for me, as Italian person coming from Florence, where I studied it. And we are seeking for sponsor, especially because we need advertising campaign for this movie. We need editorial systems behind it, but more than this, we are trying to find the finances. We have 40 actors, and we will be around, we will say 40 people in total, working both in the technical side and both as acting. I believe that is worthy. We would love to present for Berlinale 2023, but not stopping there. We have a lot of recommendation for Film Freeway, and there is also, we have also our art direction department manager Nicole Cavallini, that is involved as art director and is working for Gang, which is an important fashion brand. And we have also our Takumi Motokawa, that is the soundtrack music designer. We have our team of sound engineer. Basically, we are formed as a team, but we need for sure a financer. I can tell that it's 7 years that I'm doing this job as photographer, as art director and director of photography. I have a lot of experience in film production, especially as assistant and film runner in London, as I work also with Tiana Lindell, and one of the main characters that was selected in her production was also Tony Pitt, which now is present in Peaky Blinders. So I have a lot of experiences in terms also on how to use a camera, which department to handle, and the screenwriting is one of the main things. Since I was a child, I'm writing 7 books as well. Why me and not other people? Why this project will have the basement to become more powerful? Because it's a wild phenomenon in the way their own characters are very charismatic. They represent the hypocrisy of our life. At the end, the humblest character ever will effectively survive, which is a positive message of reunion of people, and the understanding that sometimes in order to reach your objective, you cannot only be focused on yourself, but you have also to give to other people in order to make a business marketing machine go on. Because if you are not able to present a product that also is saving and useful to society, of course the company itself collapses. I think that the powerful aspect of this existential drama detective story is hidden in the choice of the character themselves. They have a lot of charismatic, hypocritical aspect. The fact that they are always crazy, so hypocrites. We can say they suffer from these neurological problems. They have all psychological disturbance. They are not perfect. They are broken inside. At 360 degrees, I try to create like this sort of drama theatrical sect in order to make the audience also more participants, because in these characters they could also find themselves. They could find eventually their own self. That was the purpose since the beginning. And I do believe that being a screenwriter and a director of film and also a photographer, this sensitiveness in the images and the pictures, in the way they look like, in the fashion choice, in the costume design, it's also something that has to be inspirational for the purpose itself of cinematic, of joining the brand, the target, and also what is contemporary. In fact, it's a sort of translation of 10 Little Indians into a contemporary ways, as it was also said by another theatrical director here in Berlin. I do believe that the power is in the audience itself. Like when he's watching the movie, you can really relate to any one of them, but mostly is also in the social matters of the modern interpretation of the use of social media, how it can affect us, but more than it, also in the power that people are giving to social media, power that can give to an application that turns out to be a monster. Another detailed aspect of this movie that was often commented was the choice of the names of the characters. They all have a symbolic meaning, starting from Regina. Regina, queen. In Italy we used to say Regina, and we call it Regina in very personalized ways, like as a proper name. Is the fact that she is the one protecting also the company of Google. She's like the doorman of the situation, or you can look like a powerful woman full of muscle, full of incredible expectation in terms of physical prestation, but instead she's a minute girl in the movie. She's a very elegant person. She's in her 30s. She's completely aware of the position. She's covering a position of huge importance, but she's like protecting the figure of Elijah, which is the king of the story, because he can control, he can manipulate and deal with the other characters without knowing it, and being nerve and a bit naive. But as a queen, always protects the chess, like in the chess game, it protects the king. And the symbolism also behind the Otto. Otto is the symbol, the act, the number 8 Otto in Italy is also is an Italian translation. Otto is also the symbol of infinite. And when you think about the characters of Christopher that portrays this emblematic individual, is the fact that he's trying to not to categorize people, he's trying to create an app that instead is socially useful, and he wants to connect the people directly with a suicide helpline in case they will love to suicide themselves. And he's the same character suffering also from depression, and he wants to kill himself, and this is like a sort of related aspect. Then we have the character of Fred Hagelman. Hegel, like the philosopher, is the one studying the situation, is the little child that is spying on everything. It's like Hegel in a contemplative way, right? And then we have Friedrich, the names of the pianist, which a lot of composers called and said Friedrich, but the thing is also not the fact that this is an auto-located name, but the fact that it's also a reference to Romanticism, like the famous Friedrich's painter that represented one of the most important iconic paintings of the man looking at the cliff, completely isolated, and to the landscape itself, like it's a reference to the frame. And And then we have the characters of Katherine Villanova. Villanova sounds like a very mafious family from Italy. Instead, she's Indian, and the references to a name that is also so authenticated is because actually she has historical references with the inherit of the land, of the property. So she wants to portray a very powerful woman, ambitious one, what everyone would love to be. Exactly, Siegfried. Which is from Nibelungi, also references in Germany, is the police officer. He's completely embodying the institution, the government, despite from Georg, who is the detective for our stories, like our yellow, we can say, representation of the privatization of the freelancing, which is what this kind of movie wants to portray. Why Denise? Denise can also references to Diana, to the name of the royalty itself, who is the most noble characters. And then from Diana to Elijah. Elijah in all aspects also resemble a devil in the public way, and there is also reference to Elia, to the struggle of the Eneid, and to the Nea struggle. So in a contemplative way, all these characters have their own references and base it to become stronger in a more structured screenwriting once on the screen.